This man spent 20 years trapped in a fantasy world fighting for his life, and he finally did it. He killed the Demon King, but the black flames melting this monster out of existence aren't even the scary part. See, this fire doesn't burn flesh. It burns the very concept of your existence. 1 second you're alive, and the next the universe just forgets you ever happened. And right when you think our guy can finally rest, he turns around to find his own party members standing there with murder in their eyes. The healer, the mage, the knight, every single one of them was waiting for him to drop dead so they could loot his corpse. 20 years of fighting side by side, and it was all a lie. But here's the thing. He's known about their little assassination plot for 5 whole years, and he doesn't even care, because all this man wants is to go home. So the goddess grants his wish and sends him back to Earth. New body, new life, fresh start. Sounds perfect, right? Yeah, well, Earth has been infested with monsters for the past 13 years, and nobody bothered to mention that part. To understand how one man went from office worker to world-ending weapon and back to square one, we need to rewind to where this nightmare began. 20 years ago in 2005, our guy Lee Hoonok was just a regular dude in his 30s, pushing papers at a desk job when a goddess ripped him out of his world and dropped him into a full-blown medieval hellscape. No tutorial, no starter pack, just screaming and death in every direction. The goddess told him there was only one way back. Save this world by killing every monster in it. So, for 2 entire decades, this man trained, fought, bled, and clawed his way through a world that treated him like garbage the entire time. And this world did not make it easy. He once dragged a dying child off a battlefield and carried him back to a village begging for help. The soldiers at the gate looked at this bleeding kid and said, "Nah, just let him die. Medicine is too expensive to waste on someone who probably won't make it." This place would literally abandon wounded people on the side of the road like broken furniture on trash day. And their idea of healthcare? Bro, they amputated a soldier's entire leg over a basic infection because every healer in the country was too busy at the front lines to deal with peasants, just hacking off limbs like medieval butchers with a medical license they printed at home. But somehow, our guy still managed to get the child into the village, and that's when things got even worse. The local religious leaders took one look at this kid who survived a war zone and decided he must be possessed by a demon. Their solution? Burn it out of him. They were already in the middle of a full-blown exorcism where they were casually roasting people alive like it was a Sunday barbecue. Hoonok stood there watching this insanity unfold, realizing he got isekai'd into a world that has absolutely zero concept of human rights. No Geneva Convention, no basic decency, just vibes and violence. And he endured this nightmare for 20 straight years. But today, that's finally over. He's standing over the Demon King with his spear in hand and the paradox flame eating this monster alive. The beast crashes to the ground with black fire consuming his body, and for the first time in 2 decades, the big bad actually looks scared. The monster tries to talk tough, bragging about how this land was built by his teeth and claws, how he'll just regenerate and come back eventually. But then something horrifying dawns on him. His body isn't healing, it's disappearing, not burning, not breaking down, straight up ceasing to exist. Hoonok hits him with the cold truth. This fire isn't normal flame. The paradox flame uses abstract concepts as fuel instead of oxygen. And right now it's devouring the Demon King's very existence. Every cell, every memory, every trace that this creature ever walked the earth is being erased from reality like someone is deleting him from the universe's hard drive. There is no coming back from this. No resurrection, no sequel. But even while dissolving into nothingness, the Demon King decides to be petty about it. He looks at Hoonok and drops one last bomb. Yeah, you killed me, but you're never going to be remembered as a hero. Those 3 standing behind you, they're waiting for you to drop dead so they can pick your corpse clean. Hoonok doesn't even blink. He just goes, "Yeah, I know." And the entire party freezes. He turns to the Saintess first. This blonde healer who spent years pretending to be in love with him, flirting and batting her eyes like he was the center of her universe. Hoonok tells her straight up that her whole seduction act was a setup. She was supposed to make him hesitate when the time came for the group to turn on him. That way he wouldn't be able to fight back against someone he thought cared about him. The mask of innocence cracks right off her face. Then there's the knight with the spiky hair. This dude already accepted a national treasure from the Emperor as payment for killing Hoonok after the Demon King fell. The Emperor was terrified that Hoonok would come for his throne next, so he hired his own party member to stab him in the back. And the mage. That bearded old man hates Hoonok because our guy openly opposed the free system this freak was using to fuel his human experiments. Every single one of them had a reason to want him dead, and Hoonok casually reveals he's known about their assassination plot for the past 5 years. 5 years, he walked beside people who were planning his murder, and he just let it ride because none of it mattered. Even the Demon King is confused. He asks why Hunok didn't just burn the whole world down after everyone in it betrayed him. And Hunok gives the most exhausted answer imaginable. Because I just want to go home. The knight tries to step up after the Demon King dissolves, saying he's glad Hunok already knows the deal because that makes this easier. But Hunok just turns around and stares at him with 20 years of war behind those eyes. The knight immediately realizes the situation. They literally created a monster to kill a monster, and now they're standing in front of it with a butter knife. Nobody moves. Hunok looks up at the sky and screams for the goddess to keep her promise. He did what she asked. He saved this trash world. Now send him home. The heavens crack open and down she comes in a pillar of golden light, congratulating him on his incredible victory. Hunok could not care less about the applause. He reminds her of the deal. Kill the monsters, save the world, go back to Earth with his soul and memories intact. She gives him this little smirk and asks if he really wants to give all his godlike power and legendary status. Everything he achieved here will mean nothing on Earth. Hunok lets out the driest, most sarcastic laugh in the history of both worlds. He tells her to cut the act because he knows she's relieved the most dangerous thing in this dimension is finally leaving. And the goddess agrees with zero hesitation. The world no longer needs a monster. She asks one last time if he's sure he won't regret this. He drops his weapons into the dirt and tells her the only thing he desires is to return to the world he once knew. But there's a catch. His original body on Earth is long dead. 20 years passed on both sides, so the goddess is going to stuff his soul into a new vessel. Hunok asks whose body he's taking over, and she stays cryptic, only saying it belongs to someone fated for a wretched end. But she figures a man who survived 20 years of absolute hell can handle whatever bad luck comes with it. Hunok doesn't care. As long as it's Earth, he's willing to take whatever fate throws at him. His body begins dissolving into golden light, and the last image of the fantasy world fades behind him forever. A slow blink, eyes flutter open, sunlight hits his face. Our guy wakes up in a quiet room and he cannot believe what he's seeing. Clean walls, a ceiling that isn't covered in blood. He's taken over the body of a civilian named Cans, and it is the year 2025. He stumbles to a mirror and touches his new face, completely overwhelmed that this is actually real. He hugs the mirror like a long-lost relative. This man walks over to the sink and splashes clean water on his face and nearly cries because he doesn't have to drink from a contaminated river anymore. He spots the gas stove and flicks on a flame with a single button press and just stares at it. No chopping wood, no begging a mage, just instant fire. This is the real magic. Then he finds it, a box of fried chicken sitting on the table. This man looks at that chicken like it's the holy grail. He takes one massive bite, and the flavor hits him so hard that tears start rolling down his face. He's sitting on the floor shoveling food into his mouth, choking up because this is what real food tastes like after 20 years of medieval slop. He takes a hot shower with water that comes out instantly. He clicks on the air conditioner and feels cold air blow across his skin without a single enchantment or spell. He looks out the window at the bright city skyline, and for the first time in 2 decades, this man feels at peace. That peace lasts about 45 seconds. He's standing by the window thinking about what to do with his new life, maybe boot up some StarCraft, when a monster with a creepy white mask lunges at the glass and stares directly into his soul. An emergency broadcast blares through the building, announcing that a corrosion rift has appeared inside the apartment complex. Hunok has absolutely no idea what that means, but he gets the picture real fast when dozens of those masked monkey creatures start crawling up the side of the building, laughing like psychopaths. The window shatters and he bolts out of his apartment into the dark hallway with these things right on his heels. He's sprinting down the stairs, heart slamming against his ribs, mentally screaming about what the hell happened to Earth while he was gone. He manages to lose them by diving through a window and hiding on a ledge like Spider-Man with PTSD. Once the coast is clear, he climbs back inside and runs into a kid just standing in the corridor. Hunok tells him to get to a shelter immediately, but this little boy looks up at him with the most dead serious expression and says he's gonna kill the monster. Then he asks Hunok if he wants to come along. Our guy stares at this child like he just spoke an alien language. The boy drops the worst news possible. Earth has been infested with monsters for 13 years. Corrosion rifts just open up randomly, spitting out creatures, and nobody knows why or when the next one will appear. Hunok is absolutely fuming. He survived 20 years of medieval combat just to come home to the apocalypse. He curses the goddess for giving him the rawest deal in the history of interdimensional travel. When the kid asks why he doesn't know any of this, Hunok panics and lies, saying he's been living in America. The boy immediately fires back, saying nobody can cross from the US to Korea anymore, which almost blows Hunok's cover. He quickly changes the subject and asks the kid about his favorite hunter. The boy lights up talking about Lee Seun from the Janabi Guild. Ranked 10th in the world, wields a massive greatsword, and apparently she is absolutely stunning. Waifu material confirmed even by children. Hunok hushes the kid when he senses enemies nearby. 5 of those masked creatures are lurking down the hallway with a 6th hiding in the shadows. His new body has some decent physical strength, but he's completely unarmed. Then he feels it. Mana. The air is thick with it, exactly like the other world. If there's mana here, then the paradox flame should still work. He steps out and hits one of the monsters with a blast of black fire. The output is nowhere near his prime, but it still erases the creature into gray ash like it was never there. The kid's jaw hits the floor, calling him a super-powered old man. But the boy gets way too excited and rushes toward the still-burning remains to confirm the kill like he saw on some YouTube channel. Hunok dives in and blocks the flames with his bare hands, burning himself in the process. He tells the kid to stop watching things online because reality will kill him a lot faster than any video buffering screen. He borrows the toy staff the boy is carrying, takes a proper combat stance, and proceeds to shred through the remaining pack of monsters using a plastic stick like it's a legendary weapon. The kid watches with his mouth open, wondering if this man is some kind of secret hunter. They make it to the shelter and the boy's mother comes screaming his name. Turns out the kid is Yunong, and judging by the luxury items on his mom, this family is loaded. Hunok immediately connects the dots on why this kid acts like such a brat. But before anyone can celebrate, a massive blackened fist punches straight through the shelter wall. A giant monster breaks into the safe zone and chaos erupts. Everyone is scrambling and Yunong tells Hunok they need to run. But Hunok just stands there, fists clenched, old war scars and fresh burns covering his palms. He didn't ask for much, just some peace and quiet. He asks Yunong why he wants to become a hunter when his family is rich enough to hide out somewhere comfortable for the rest of his life. The boy's face hardens. He tells Hunok that a monster killed his father inside a bunker, a place everyone thought was safe. That was the day Yunong realized there is no such thing as a safe place anymore. He declares that he's going to become the strongest hunter and save the entire world. Hunok looks into those fierce little eyes and tells him he's absolutely going to become a great hunter. But he won't be the one saving the world. Yunong's mom drags him away as Hunok walks toward the monster. The black flames erupt one more time and the creature drops. Hunok walks away without looking back and tells the kid that saving the world is a job for someone who's already done it before. And then this absolute legend went home and became a couch potato. After that whole dramatic speech about saving the world, his ambition evaporated the instant he discovered delivery apps and high-speed internet. Why fight interdimensional monsters when you can order fried chicken with a single tap and play video games until your eyes bleed? He's sitting on the floor staring at a victory screen after a marathon gaming session, muttering that it was too easy while sipping soda and chewing energy jellies. He figured the professional hunters could handle the rifts while he handled his KD ratio. Reality smacked him in the face when he checked his bank account and found 3,001 to his name. The original owner of this body got laid off when his logistics company went bankrupt thanks to a corrosion rift. Severance pay? Gone. Job market? Dead. Every company is shutting down because monsters keep destroying the economy faster than any recession ever could. Then a hunter recruitment ad pops up on his phone and Hunok thinks to himself, well, he does have about 20 years of experience in that particular field. He shows up at the Hunter Association and the place is packed with candidates buzzing about their futures. 2 guys are chatting about how the whole selection process is basically a formality. Just show off a unique skill and you're golden. An observer is watching the crowd looking bored because most of these recruits look like small fries. Then the entire building erupts. The crowd splits as someone walks in and every head turns. Lee Seun, the rank 10 hunter in the world from the Janabi Guild, just casually strolled into the recruitment center, and everyone is losing their minds wondering why she's here instead of out slaying monsters. She takes her seat, pulls out a tablet, and opens the file on Han Sanga, top academy graduate. Awakened ability is electrokinesis. Her colleague cracks a joke about Sanga's power being great for charging batteries, and Sane just gives him a look that could freeze lava. Another official chimes in saying that academy performance rarely translates to real combat. Students trained in safe environments tend to crumble when they're actually facing death. Sun shuts him up by shoving a candy in his mouth, which is apparently this woman's signature way of telling someone to stop talking. The announcer takes the mic and calls out the first match. But there's something weird in the lineup. A civilian candidate with 0 academy background, completely unprecedented. The crowd watches as Yuchins walks into the spotlight. Our guy is still getting used to answering to his new name. His first opponent is some blonde spear wielder who takes one look at him and starts grinning. This dude lights his weapon on fire and charges in immediately, bragging about being the Academy's undefeated spearmaster while mocking Hunuk for having absolutely no mana in his body. The entire speech takes about 3 seconds because that's how long it takes for Hunuk to vanish from the blonde guy's line of sight, appear right beside him, and bury a fist into his stomach so hard the shockwave probably registered on a seismograph. He follows up with an uppercut that rearranges the guy's dental work and sends teeth scattering across the arena floor. The blonde hits the ground unconscious before his brain even processed what happened. Hunuk stands over him genuinely surprised the fight ended that fast. He actually held back because he thought using real force might kill the guy. He starts wondering if this is seriously the standard for modern hunters, because if so, the world is in more trouble than he thought. Up in the stands, Sun's eyes go wide. She pulls up Yu-Chain's profile and it says former logistics company employee. No mana, no training, no academy background. Her colleague suggests it was just luck, but Sun shoves another candy in his mouth. She's already figured out something the scouts missed. This guy isn't just low on mana, he's deliberately avoiding it. Hunuk keeps plowing through opponents without breaking a sweat, beating them all with nothing but his bare fists. He doesn't even bother picking up a weapon. Every single fight ends the same way. Some academy-trained hunter rushes in with a flashy technique, and Hunuk just walks through it and drops them with fundamental combat that makes 20 years of war experience look like the most unfair advantage in human history. He's genuinely disappointed. Not a single person in this entire tournament has made him try. Sun has seen enough. While every other scout is still running the numbers, she stands up and walks out to find the association president. She's not evaluating anymore. She's about to make something happen. The finals arrive and the crowd is pinning all their hopes on one person, Han Sanga, Academy star pupil. Electrokinesis user, the one candidate who might actually put up a fight. She steps onto the stage and Hunuk gives her credit for being the only person he's seen today who's actually gathered a significant amount of mana. Sanga fires back telling him his luck just ran out. She grabs her sword and says she's figured out he has no unique skill, which is why he's been punching everything like a caveman. She's not going easy. Hunuk mentally notes that he does have a unique skill. He's just not using it because he'd probably hurt her. The referee signals the start and Sanga takes a low stance with electricity crackling across her entire body. She grips her hilt and launches into a high-speed draw technique. There's a massive explosion of light as her blade rockets forward at insane velocity, and she hits absolutely nothing. Hunuk jumped. This man dodged a lightning speed strike by simply leaving the ground. Sanga stares up in disbelief, unable to process how a human being could react fast enough to dodge that. Hunuk is actually impressed though. He figured out exactly what she did. By running an electric current through her blade and scabbard, she turned the whole setup into a magnetic rail. The draw technique basically converted her sword into a railgun. That's genuinely brilliant, but she made one critical mistake. To accelerate the blade even faster, she laid down a magnetic rail path in the air ahead of her swing, which means she literally drew a neon sign showing him exactly where the attack was going. He tells her that no matter how powerful a strike is, only an idiot would take a hit when the path is broadcasted like a GPE's route. Sanga is furious. She charges again without the technique, pouring everything into a direct assault. Hunuk sidesteps it casually and asks if she's really trying to hit him with something slower after he already dodged her fastest move. She pushes harder, shattering the ground with raw electrical output, and Hunuk realizes she's destroying her own body just to squeeze out a bit more power. He decides it's time to end this before she seriously hurts herself. He tells her to raise her left hand if what he's about to do hurts. Before she can even blink, he's already in her face. A devastating punch to the midsection disrupts everything inside her, and a follow-up strike sends her flying across the arena. Han Sanga, the Academy's top student, hits the floor hard, pride and body equally shattered. The entire venue goes silent. Nobody can process what just happened. Then a trembling hand slowly rises from the ground. She actually raised her left hand. This girl lying broken on the arena floor remembered his stupid joke and followed through on it. Hunuk can't help but give a slight nod of respect. She listened, but the day isn't over. The referee gets an urgent update and announces that the tournament schedule has been changed. Hunuk is told to take a short break and he's confused because he assumed this was finished. Then the bombshell drops. A special match has been arranged between the rookie winner and an active professional hunter. The association president personally approved it. The crowd erupts when a name flashes on the monitors and a massive heavy blade slams into the arena floor, sending sparks flying everywhere. A woman with long black hair steps into view. Lee Seun from the Janabai Guild, rank 10 in the entire world. She tells Hunuk the stage has been a bit too small for his skills and offers him a real match. She gives him the option to walk away, but her eyes are screaming that she wants this fight. Hunuk can feel the aura radiating off her. This is not an academy student. This is a weapon in human form. He cracks a small, confident smile, picks up a basic training spear from the rack, and gets into a combat stance. 30 minutes into the fight and Hunuk is drenched in sweat, breathing heavy, barely keeping up. Sun swings that greatsword with terrifying speed and every parry nearly rips the spear out of his hands. His mind can see every opening in her form, but his body simply cannot keep up with what his brain is telling it to do. This new vessel doesn't have the physical stats to match 20 years of combat instinct. Sun teases him, saying she was hoping for a decent warm-up, but she's surprised he's fading this fast. She expected him to drop in the first 5 minutes though, so lasting this long is still impressive. She closes in for the finish and Hunuk is out of options. 0 mana stored. The ambient mana in the arena is barely anything. He didn't want to reveal this card so early, but he has no choice anymore. His eyes sharpen. A whisper escapes his lips. Paradox Flame. A strange dark blue fire begins to flicker across his body. Sun's eyes go wide as she senses the air itself change around them. She brings her sword down with everything she's got, but Hunuk is already gone, dodged by a hair. She stares in shock because that swing had enough power and precision to be undodgeable. This flame doesn't burn matter. That's why his clothes stay untouched. It consumes abstract concepts that he designates as fuel. Right now, his body can't handle burning heavy concepts like self or memory. So the one thing he chooses to burn is fatigue. The exhaustion draining his muscles evaporates in an instant. His speed comes roaring back. His power spikes. And just like fire releases heat when it burns matter, the Paradox Flame releases raw mana when it burns a concept. He uses mana to ignite the flame. The flame burns his fatigue to produce more mana, an endless cycle that turns him into a perpetual motion machine of violence. He rockets towards Sun and she can feel it immediately. He's faster now, way faster. He slams a strike into Sun's guard so hard she actually has to brace for it, and her eyes flash with surprise because this is the same guy who was gasping for air 30 seconds ago. The arena erupts into absolute chaos as the two of them trade blows at a completely different speed than before. Their weapons are colliding so fast, the clashing sounds are blending together into one continuous roar of steel and mana. The ground beneath them is cracking and shattering with every exchange like the arena itself is begging them to stop. Sun notices something weird. The mana concentration in the air around them keeps spiking and dropping like a heartbeat. The arena settings haven't changed, so something about this guy's power is literally warping the atmosphere. That's the Paradox Flame doing its thing. Every time it burns away his fatigue, it dumps raw mana back into the air as a byproduct. So the entire arena is pulsing with energy that he's generating just by refusing to get tired. This man turned exhaustion into a renewable resource. At some point during this marathon, Seun looks at him and asks if he seriously thinks he can keep this up forever. Hunuk just grins and asks her if she likes guys who don't know when to quit. She hits him with the coldest rejection in combat sports history. She tells him she absolutely hates people like that. But here's the catch with his infinite energy hack. Just like burnt trees leave behind ash, the Paradox Flame leaves residue too. Once there's nothing left to burn and only residue remains, the flame dies out completely. So it's not truly infinite. It's a ticking clock disguised as unlimited power. And after 4 hours and 17 minutes of non-stop fighting, that clock finally runs out. Sun lands the final blow, and Hunuk hits the floor begging for mercy while she stands over him with that massive blade, looking like she could go another 4 hours without blinking. The announcer declares Lee Sun the winner after Hunuk officially forfeits. But instead of walking away, she reaches into her pocket and pulls out a big lollipop. She tosses it to Hunuk along with her business card and tells him it's a reward for his hard work. She says to give her a call so they can talk details. This woman just beat a man senseless for 4 hours straight and then handed him candy like a pediatrician after a flu shot. That is the most unhinged recruitment strategy in the history of employment. Days later, Hunuk is walking through the city checking out Sun's card details on his phone when a shadow falls over him. He looks up and there's a mountain of a human being standing in his path. This dude is easily over 2 meters tall, covered in tribal tattoos, built like someone stuffed a gorilla into a black t-shirt and taught it how to network. He introduces himself as Yunang Hyun, a partner hunter from the Tak Guild. He tells Hunuk to join his team and promises he'll become a star under his guidance. The guy seems sincere enough, but Hunuk already has Soon's offer on the table. He tells the giant he needs time to think about it. The big man laughs like that's the funniest thing he's heard all week and says he doesn't need an answer right now. Then his whole energy shifts. He grabs Hunuk's shoulder, leans in close with this menacing gleam in his eyes, and tells him to think it through very carefully. Just a casual see you around. The man walks away and Hunuk makes his decision on the spot. He is absolutely not joining Tak. Something about a 7-foot-tall man whispering threats into your ear tends to narrow down your career options pretty fast. He calls Son and she tells him to meet her at a cafe called The Hut on the 2nd floor of the Hunter Association building. He shows up and she waves him over. He mentions the giant who tried to recruit him and Soon's expression shifts. She explains that once a titan like Yunang Hyun shows interest in you, most other guilds won't even dare to make a competing offer. Hunuk asks if that includes Janabi too, and that's when Soon drops a bomb. She has zero intention of recruiting him. Hunuk is completely confused now, because if she doesn't want him in her guild, then why the hell did she call him here? Sun tells him she wants him to go freelance. No guild affiliation at all. She breaks down the guild structure for him since he's clueless about all of it. Guilds have 3 ranks. Juniors and seniors are basically salaried employees who work under the leadership of partner hunters. Partners are the real deal. They don't get a paycheck. They own shares in the guild and take a direct cut of the net profits. Basically, business owners. The whole system was modeled after law firms. And here's the key detail. You don't have to climb the ladder from junior to partner. If you become famous enough and your results speak for themselves, the guilds will come begging to offer you a partnership. Hunuk's eyes light up because that means if he just goes out there and dominates, every major guild in the country will eventually be fighting over him. Sohn confirms this and shoves another candy in his mouth, which makes him wonder why this woman is obsessed with feeding him sweets. But he points out the obvious problem. He's a nobody with 0 connections. Getting high-level missions as a freelancer with no reputation is going to be nearly impossible. Sun leans forward with a smile and tells him she'll handle that part for free. Hunuk is suspicious, but she's upfront about her angle. She's putting him in her debt now so that when he inevitably becomes a big deal, he'll remember that Janabi was the guild that helped him when nobody else would. It's a long-term investment dressed up as a favor. She slides an envelope across the table and tells him it's a mission request from Insin City. There's a place called Jiadongo Island where a corrosion zone formed 2 years ago after a failed attempt to clear a rift. The job is to patrol the island for a month and eliminate any new rifts that pop up. Pay is 5 million upfront with another 15 million on completion. Hunuk tells her the money is trash considering someone could die out there. Sun doesn't sugarcoat it. She tells him that's the reality for someone at his current standing. If he wants the big money, he has to become strong enough to make it come to him. He takes the mission. Later, Sun calls her boss to report on Hunuk. She tells him a civilian cleared the selection trials with nothing but his bare fists. The boss sounds unimpressed until she mentions the civilian lasted 4 hours against her in a fight. The boss immediately assumes she was holding back and soon shuts that down hard. She reminds him she's a veteran hunter with a decade of experience built on surviving the worst places imaginable. Under normal circumstances, she should have been able to toy with this guy. She couldn't. She flat out admits she might never encounter another monster like him. The boss asks who she paired him with for the island mission and soon reveals it's Han Sanga. Then he asks what she thinks Hunuk would look like if he ever reached her level. Soon doesn't hesitate. She tells her boss that if Hunuk ever reaches her level, he could probably take even him down. That sentence just hangs in the air. 1 month before the island mission, Hunuk receives a delivery at his apartment. Inside the case is a sleek black spear and a bottle of green elixir. The elixir is condensed mana that hunters use in emergencies. Most hunters work like water purifiers. They draw mana from the atmosphere, store it in their bodies, and release it when they fight. Hunuk's method is completely different. He skips the storage step entirely and pulls mana directly from the air in real time. The advantage is that he's never limited by his own tank because he's drinking straight from the ocean. Every time mana flows through his channels, they get wider and stronger, letting him handle more output over time. The downside is that right now those channels are still small. He can't produce a massive burst of power on short notice because the pipes aren't big enough yet. So he spends the entire month training with the elixir to widen those channels and get this new body up to speed. Present day, Jiadongo Island. Hunters line up at the check and point to verify their licenses, and Hunuk gets assigned to Squad 8. He joins his teammates and keeps quiet while everyone else chatters like it's a field trip. Then a familiar voice calls his name. Han Sanga is standing there in a sleeveless shirt with a nasty scar running across her shoulder. She's on the same squad and suggests they work together. Hunuk asks her why, and she admits that he's stronger than her, so she wants to learn from him. Hunuk teases her, saying his shoulder is about to fall off from all that blushing. Sanga, in peak Sanga fashion, asks him completely straight-faced if his shoulders dislocate frequently. This girl has the comedic awareness of a brick wall. He remembers this is the same woman who literally raised her left hand during their match because he jokingly told her to. Humor is simply not installed in her operating system. The squad gets briefed on the mission. Corrosion rifts are classified from unclassified up to Class 1, with Class 1 being the most dangerous. The first rift to appear in any area is called the Alpha. The Alpha rift on this island is located at a church in the northern region, and it's currently listed as unclassified. Their job is to patrol the area, find any new rifts, and deal with them. They are specifically told to stay away from the Alpha. The squad leader and the other veterans immediately side-eye Hunuk because they don't want a rookie on a real mission. They land on the island and start making plans. Hunuk cuts in and suggests they set up base at Wajiasa Temple. He pulls up the map and explains that the temple sits at a high elevation with clear sightlines over the entire target area, and the mountain peak gives them a perfect overlook of the region. plus the old temple building is right there for shelter. It's the obvious tactical choice. The squad leader, a guy with glasses who apparently got his leadership skills from a cereal box, looks at Hunok like he just insulted his mother. He demands to know why some rookie is giving orders. Another hunter in a tank top chimes in complaining that they could get surrounded if they climb a mountain. Hunok points out they're not exactly facing an army of thousands, so getting surrounded isn't really on the table. But these guys refuse to listen to someone with less experience than a fast food trainee, so they reject his plan entirely. Hunok mentally sighs because apparently idiots who ignore basic logic exist in every single dimension. He tells them fine, they can do their thing, he's going to the temple. He breaks off and heads into the forest. Sangha follows him immediately, and surprisingly a third person tags along. Kim Ji, the guy with the orange hair who was giving Hunok attitude earlier. Hunok asks MG why he's following them. Maiji claims he's just keeping an eye on the rookies to make sure they don't get themselves killed, but Hunok takes it as a genuine gesture. At least one person on this squad has a functioning brain. They push deeper into the forest when suddenly Hunok freezes. He tells the other two to stop and stay quiet. Maiji peeks over the ridge and his face goes white. There are at least 50 corrosion creatures gathered in the clearing below. Maiji immediately whispers that they need to take a detour. There's way too many. Hunok asks him what his unique skill is. Maiji looks at him like he's insane and asks if he's seriously considering fighting them. Hunok asks him back if it's not the literal job description of a hunter to fight monsters. Maiji says his skill is fire, specifically fireball. Hunok tells him perfect, you're shooting first. Maiji protests because 3 people against 50 monsters on their very first mission is suicidal, and they should radio for backup. Hunok shuts that down immediately. He points out that the other squads are all patrolling the coast. They're the only ones near the temple. Even if they radio for help, there's no guarantee anyone shows up, especially after the squad leader drama earlier. And if these monsters scatter while they're waiting for reinforcements that become a threat to everyone else on the island, there is no backup. There is no plan B. The only option is to hit them fast and hit them now. He crouches down and starts drawing a battle plan in the dirt. Muji fires a massive fireball at the center of the pack while Hunok locks down the flanks with his spear. Sangha covers anything that slips through. Maiji stares at this dirt diagram in disbelief because this rookie is anticipating every possible outcome like he's been running military operations his entire life. Which, well, he has. Maiji launches the fireball and it connects with a thunderous explosion that swallows the center of the monster pack. He calls out that he needs time before his next shot. Hunok tells him to fire when ready and dives into the fray, cutting through the surviving monsters with ruthless efficiency. He's a whirlwind of steel, slicing through everything that moves while keeping the formation intact. Any creature that gets past him meets Sangha's blade. She bursts in with a flash of lightning and cuts down 3 monsters in a single stroke. When MG calls out that he's ready, Hunok clears the blast zone and a second devastating fireball wipes the rest off the map. The dust settles and all 50 monsters are dead. Maiji is still processing what just happened when he reaches for his waist and pulls out what looks like a gun. Hunok nearly has a heart attack thinking this man just switched teams, but Maiji tells him to relax. It's a tagging device. He starts implanting microchips into the dead monsters and explains the system. Once the mission is over, contracted junk dealers come in with trucks to collect the monster remains. They sell anything valuable and split the profits with the hunter who tagged them. It's basically Monster DoorDash, but in reverse. The bodies come to the buyer. Hunok barely has time to appreciate this new economy lesson when his senses spike. He grabs Umji and dives out of the way as a massive bat creature crashes into the clearing. This thing is a mid-boss and the mana pouring off it makes the 50 creatures they just fought look like warm-up enemies. Hunok immediately tells both of them to get back. Maiji and Sangha want to help, but Hunok snaps at them with a voice so serious it stops them cold. He tells them to stay out of it unless they want to go home in a body bag. The reason is simple. He can only use the Paradox Flame if he's fighting solo. The flames spread to every living thing in the area except him. If his teammates get too close, they're getting cooked right alongside the monster. He taunts the beast and the fight begins. From the sidelines, Sangha watches closely. MG thinks Hunok is struggling and wants to jump in, but Sangha tells him to look again. Hunok hasn't taken a single hit. Every attack the monster throws, attacks that would have destroyed her, he's dodging while counterattacking simultaneously. Each time his spear connects, black flames bloom on the wound and the monster gets slower. What looked like a desperate struggle is actually Hunok calmly dismantling this thing piece by piece. Then he does something that makes both of them lose their minds. He throws his spear straight up into the air. The monster sees its chance and charges full speed at the now unarmed hunter. Sangha screams. Miji screams. Hunok doesn't flinch. He doesn't move a single inch. He stares the beast down with a face as cold as stone. The spear comes down like a divine punishment and pins the monster to the earth. The creature writhes pathetically as Hunuk walks over to finish it off. MG is having a full existential crisis. He asks Hunuk if monsters that strong are common here. Hunuk asks the same thing back, and Eunji says absolutely not. A creature at that level shouldn't exist in an unclassified rift. According to the power scale, that thing was grade 3 territory. Hunuk connects the dots. The Alpha Corrosion Rift was listed as unclassified in the briefing, but based on what they just fought, it has clearly upgraded itself to grade 3. Sanga doesn't want to believe it because the briefing said otherwise. Hunuk tells her to think with her head instead of her feelings. There is no other explanation. Mudgy goes pale when the reality hits. If this is a grade 3 rift, then most of the hunters on this island are walking into a death trap. He begs Hunuk to go save the other squads. Hunuk says no. Umji is stunned. Hunuk tells them straight. He's one person. He has limits. Their mission isn't to rescue other hunters. It's to deal with the rifts. And in this line of work, not everyone is going to make it home. That's part of the job. Sanga asks what he'd do if he were the one in danger. Would he want someone to come save him? Hunuk's expression doesn't change. He tells them he's not saying this because he lacks emotion. He's lived through 20 years of war. He's watched people die when there was nothing anyone could do about it. Desperation doesn't change the outcome. It just gets more people killed. That night they reach Wujiasa Temple and set up base. The building is clear, and from the vantage point they can see the lights of other hunter squads scattered across the island below. Hunuk notes that using lights is basically painting a target on your back. Small fries won't be a problem, but if another grade 3 monster shows up, those teams are finished. He sends out a group warning to all squads on the island, identifying himself from Squad 8. He tells them the rift has likely upgraded to grade 3, and they need to kill their lights immediately if they want to survive. He asks MG a critical question. If they destroy the core of the Alpha Rift, will the corruption and all the monsters disappear? Mobji confirms it. No core means no energy source. No energy means the zone collapses and every creature inside vanishes. Hunuk's plan crystallizes. The solution is simple. Go straight to the source and kill it. Once Muji and Sanga fall asleep, Hunuk slips out into the night. He drops a sensor device on the floor that will sound an alarm if anything approaches. He memorized the location of the Alpha Rift during the briefing, and he's heading straight for it alone. But because the universe apparently has a personal vendetta against this man, a massive clawed paw slams into the ground right in front of him before he even gets close. A towering purple beast with glowing white eyes blocks his path. Back at the Situation Room on Jiadongo Island, things have completely fallen apart. Hunter signals are dropping off the map and they're presuming casualties. Team 5 is dark. Team 3 has a confirmed death. The monsters are moving in organized formations like an actual military force. The section chief is losing his mind, demanding reinforcements from anyone who can hear him. Then, one of the techs spots something insane on the map. Someone is heading directly toward the Alpha Corrosion Core. The chief demands to know who is stupid enough to run toward the source instead of away from it. It's Hunuk. Of course it is. He's the same guy who first reported the rift upgrade. They manage to connect to his terminal, and the first thing they hear is Hunuk screaming at them for being incompetent enough to send hunters into an unclassified zone without a proper investigation. He's cursing them out so thoroughly the techs in the room are genuinely debating whether to hit the mute button, but at least they've confirmed he's alive. The Paradox Flame has a quirk that's making this fight harder than it needs to be. The Flame isn't great at killing individual targets outright. He has to use it to chip away at an enemy's health over time and then finish them with his spear. This purple beast is tanking the hits and keeps coming. The earlier fight with the bat drained his mana reserve, so his output is weaker than it should be. He can't leave the island, so he needs a fresh source of mana, and then he spots it. A glowing blue energy source pulsing in the middle of the forest, the Alpha Rift itself. He bolts toward it with the monster right on his heels, taunting the beast to try and keep up. Back at headquarters, his GP signal cuts out completely. He's entered the Alpha Corrosion Core. The operators can only stare at the screen and pray. Inside the rift, Hunuk is surprised by how clean and spacious it is. He wonders how massive the grade 1 and 2 rifts must be if this is what a 3 looks like. The purple beast follows him in, and Hunuk decides it's time to stop holding back. Fighting solo inside the rift means the Paradox Flame's biggest weakness doesn't matter. That friendly fire problem where the flames spread to every living thing nearby? Irrelevant when there are no friendlies, he lets loose. The purple flames erupt and engulf the monster while mana floods into his body. It pours through his channels, widening and strengthening them with every second. He can feel himself getting stronger in real time. The absorption is way more efficient than he expected. The monster screams and calls for backup. A swarm of smaller creatures floods in from the darkness, surrounding him completely. Hunuk couldn't care less. Against him, numbers mean nothing anymore. He creates a barrier of flames and wipes out the entire swarm with a single swing. The ground caves in, forming a massive crater from the sheer pressure of his power. Then a new presence makes itself known, a creature that waited for his paradox flame to burn out before revealing itself. This one is different. It can talk. It's intelligent, and it's the core of the rift. Hunuk calculates that with his current power level, he can manage a 4-hit combo. He launches his spear at the core, and the creature blocks with its own weapon. But the force keeps pressing down, and Hunuk activates a technique called Dual Moon Spear. A blue trajectory generates along the path of his attack and mimics the first strike, repeating it 4 times over. On its own, it's a deadly chain of consecutive hits, but the real trick is when those blue trails delay their attacks by a single beat. It creates a 2-part spear dance where the delayed echoes make the combo nearly impossible to read or dodge. The core monster tries to leap at him, and that's its fatal mistake. The delayed strikes close in at exactly the right moment. Hunuk grabs the spear and delivers a devastating sequence that shatters the creature's body completely. A blue reward chest materializes where the core used to be. Meanwhile, the Situation Room has descended into absolute despair. Reports of failed reinforcements are flooding every channel. The section chief has accepted that this is a total loss. Then a technician screams that they've received a priority message from Hunuk. The main screen flickers to life. The message reads that the Alpha Corrosion Core has been successfully cleared and the threat is eliminated. The section chief can barely process what he's reading. The miracle he prayed for actually happened, and it was done by a single rookie on his very first mission. And just like that, every single monster on the island starts dissolving into black smoke. Gone, all of them. Meanwhile, moments before that miracle happened, Sanga and Miji were about 2 seconds away from becoming monster food. They were completely surrounded with no way out. Miji looked at Sanga and asked if they were even going to survive this. She didn't have an answer because she was running on fumes too. Her legs wouldn't even move anymore. A monster lunged straight at her and she closed her eyes, fully accepting that this was it. Then every creature around them just evaporated into thin air. She opened her eyes to an empty battlefield with nothing but smoke and silence. Hunuk had killed the core at that exact moment without even knowing he was saving their lives from across the island. The next morning, Hunuk strolls into the assembly point, and the place looks like a field hospital. Hunters are bandaged, bruised, and scattered everywhere, recovering from the rampage that happened while he was busy soloing the rift. The same squad members who refused to listen to his temple plan and treated him like a clueless intern are now staring at him with their jaws on the floor. Word already spread that the rookie cleared a grade 3 rift by himself. Miji spots him and runs over, completely shell-shocked, asking how he could possibly do something that insane alone. Hunuk decides this is a good moment to play the noble hero since everything worked out. He tells MG his heart just wanted to do the right thing. Smooth, calculated. This man is managing his public image like a Fortune 500 CEO who also happens to kill monsters on the side. Before he can enjoy the moment, an official approaches and introduces himself as Baeon Jongtae from the Korea Operating Corporation. He's the branch manager for Northern Incheon Province, and the mayor of Incheon City would very much like a word with the man who just saved his island. Hunuk doesn't mind the invitation because he's already thinking about renegotiating his garbage 20 million won paycheck into something that actually respects his time. On the way to the mayor's office through heavy rain, the liaison officer Lee Pili can't stop gushing. He tells Hunuk that a rookie soloing a grade 3 rift hasn't happened since the very first hunter walked the earth. Hunuk raises an eyebrow at that. Someone actually did this before him? That person must have been an absolute freak of nature. Earlier during the car ride, Pili had asked Hunuk what his purpose was as a hunter. Hunuk gave him the most unromantic answer possible. He said someone has to be the guy who dives into the clogged toilet and fixes it. Pili told him that with achievements like this, he's going to become incredibly famous. Companies will beg him for endorsements. TV shows will come calling. But Pili's tone shifted when he admitted that fame destroys most hunters. They get drunk on popularity and forget why they picked up a weapon in the first place. Korea is the last sanctuary on Earth, and people need real symbols of hope, not celebrities in armor. He looked at Hunuk through the rearview mirror, genuinely wishing this kid wouldn't end up like the rest. Mayor Park Jin welcomes Hunuk into his office with apologies about the weather and orders coffee like they're about to have a business lunch. The second they're alone, he starts praising Hunuk for his service and admits the island was a financial nightmare because the city couldn't afford to hire a proper guild. Hunuk cuts through the pleasantries and points out that the mayor must be thrilled he got his problem solved at bargain bin prices. The mayor confirms this without a shred of shame and then gets up from his chair in excitement, saying he's so proud that Hunuk's first steps as a hunter happened in Incheon. Then this man goes full tourism commercial. He starts rattling off how Korea is the safest country in the world, how Incheon is a major trade hub, how the free economic zone is attracting foreign investment, how there's massive capital flowing through the international cities. Hunuk is just sitting there watching this politician foam at the mouth, wondering when the sales pitch is going to end. The mayor promises to provide all the support Hunuk could ever need as a hunter. Hunuk has been alive long enough to know that nobody gives you things for free, especially not politicians. He asks the mayor point blank what he actually wants. Then he goes for the throat and tells the mayor he's obviously trying to boost his approval ratings for re-election. The mayor nearly chokes. Hunuk casually mentions that you can find anything on a smartphone these days. The mayor tries to recover by pointing out that Hunuk technically needs City Hall approval to take missions as a rookie hunter, which means the mayor has leverage. If he frames it right, he can claim Hunuk was a talent he personally discovered in Insin. Then the mayor gets bold. He taps the coffee brand sitting on his desk and says the model shooting their commercial is about to have her contract expire. He suggests they could replace her face with Hunuk's. This man just tried to turn the guy who killed a grade 3 rift into a coffee commercial model. Hunuk sets the cup down, looks this politician dead in the eye, and asks if he seriously thinks he can be bought that cheap. He tells the mayor that everything being offered on this table is stuff he can get on his own just by continuing to be a hunter. The mayor scrambles and starts throwing out promises of safe, high-paying commissions. Hunuk gets up, tells him his offers are trash, and says to just let the coffee model keep her job. Then he walks out. Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the city, a mysterious figure in a hoodie receives a report that the Jaidongo Island test was a complete failure thanks to some hunters' interference. A subordinate shows the hooded man footage from Hunuk's selection trials on a phone, and the man's eyes lock onto the black flames surrounding the rookie's body. A sinister grin spreads across his face. Someone is very interested in the paradox flame. It's the first of the month, and the entire country is glued to their screens because the September 22 500 rankings are dropping. This is basically the Super Bowl of Korean hunter culture. People on the streets are debating who's taking the #1 spot. In a hospital room, some guy with a broken arm is hyped for the reveal. Even Sewn out in the snowy mountains is curious whether her little project made the list. The rankings drop and history gets rewritten. 10th place, Lee Seon. 5th place, Kim Ki-hyeon. 3rd place, Ko Yor-im. 2nd place, Jang Tae-sok. And the #1 hunter in all of South Korea is Yu Chanseo, a newly registered hunter in 2005 who just pulled off the fastest ranking entry in association history. If a 5-year veteran had cleared a grade 3 zone solo, people might have shrugged it off, but a rookie doing it on his literal first mission, that changes everything. Hunuk gets dragged to a massive press conference where reporters are screaming questions about how he did it without backup. He feels like a kid on one of those Finding Geniuses TV shows. After dodging a wall of questions, he tells them he's only taking one more. A reporter asks about his resolution as a hunter, and Hunuk refuses to give them some rehearsed inspirational nonsense. He just says he'll let his results do the talking. The association president Moon Jong-tae personally invites Hunuk on a helicopter tour and takes him to see a massive crater where a city used to be. This is Gansalok, one of the Great 8, the 8 most dangerous corrosion zones on the planet. It appeared 13 years ago and just started expanding from the city center without any warning. In a matter of days, the entire city vanished like it was erased from existence. Moon explains that most countries lost all their government capabilities when the rifts appeared, but South Korea managed to survive and actually thrive. The helicopter they're riding in runs on nanotechnology and blocks outside noise. Korea turned the apocalypse into a tech boom, but the central government's real power has weakened even if the nation is still standing. Then Moon drops the real reason for this field trip. That giant from Tak, Yoonong Hyun, came to see the president a few days ago, and he's furious that Hunuk hasn't joined his guild. He straight up demanded to know where Hunuk lives. Moon assures him he didn't give up that information, but warns that Tak operates on a survival of the fittest ideology. If Hunuk won't join willingly, they might try to force the issue. Hunuk realizes he's in a bad spot because he can't take on Yoonang with brute force right now. Moon suggests that if Hunuk wants to stay independent and keep Tak off his back, he needs to raise his status fast. And the best way to do that is taking missions directly from the association president. Hunuk knows there's a catch and asks what the old man wants in return. Moon says all he wants is for Hunuk to remember who helped him when the time comes. Fair enough. Then he hands Hunuk the mission: escort a cargo ship from Busan to Nanning City. Transportation is a nightmare in this era because rifts pop up everywhere. Hunuk checks the cargo manifest and his eyebrows climb off his face. Rolexes, luxury cars, premium tea. He asks the president if the definition of necessities changed while he was gone. Moon insists these items are absolutely essential for certain people. Hunuk sees it for what it is. This is a diplomatic bribe shipment designed to grease international political wheels. He tells the president flat out that getting dragged into political games is a fool's errand. He unbuckles his seatbelt in mid-flight. The president is stunned. Hunuk dumps the mission documents straight out of the helicopter door. Then he thanks the old man for the ride, tells him he'll find his own way back, and casually steps out into open air. He plummets toward the ocean and hits the water with a massive splash. The association president can only grip the side of the chopper and shake his head at the sheer audacity of this man. Hunnock crawls out of the ocean at Incenport, gasping and dripping wet while a confused dockworker offers him a hand. He realizes what he needs to do. Instead of playing politics, he's gonna build power the hard way. Take the dirtiest, most dangerous, lowest tier missions that nobody else wants. Stack victories until his name is so big that no guild, no politician, and no giant with tribal tattoos can ever push him around again. He pulls out his phone and scrolls through available missions until he finds one that fits perfectly. A kidnapping rescue on Tsushima Island. Estimated grade 2 corrosion zone. 55 million won reward. On September 3rd, fishermen headed out during peak prawn season and corrosion creatures from Tsushima snatched them right off their boats. A survivor barely escaped and confirmed the hostages are still alive. The mission is to go in, rescue the victims, and eliminate the rift. Here's the problem. Grade 2 is a completely different universe from Grade 3. A Grade 3 creature has the destructive power of a tank. A Grade 2 creature is a walking natural disaster. And a Grade 1? The entire country has to mobilize just to fight a single one. Hunnock handled Grade 3 thanks to the Paradox Flame, but he's not confident he can survive Grade 2 alone. He needs a partner, someone useful, someone willing to take a civilian's private request when most high-tier hunters wouldn't even glance at it. Then it hits him. Hunnock and Han Sanga board a ship heading for Tsushima Island. She asks how long until they arrive, and he tells her about an hour. He warns her to rest up because this fight is going to be significantly harder than the last one. Sanga completely ignores the warning and starts obsessing over the limited edition Iron Seraph shoulder pad on his gear, asking how he got his hands on it. Hunnock tells her a junk dealer gave it to him as a gift because when you're a rising prospect who solo cleared a Grade 3 rift, people just hand you premium equipment. Unlike her, a rookie with nothing but a fancy valedictorian title and 0 highlights to show for it. Sanga's face goes ice cold. Hunnock notices and doesn't apologize. He just tells her to get stronger and get famous if she doesn't want to keep hearing it. A few days earlier, when he first called her about the mission, she hesitated. They almost died in a Grade 3 zone, and now he wants to jump into a Grade 2? But Hunnock asked her one question. Do you want to get stronger? She went quiet. Then she said yes. He told her he could make her several times stronger than she is right now. That was enough. Whatever personal demons are driving this girl, whatever happened to give her that burn scar on her shoulder, her hunger for power is strong enough to make her follow a madman into hell without a second thought. The ship's alarm starts blurring. Unidentified objects dead ahead. 5 ghostly ships emerge from the fog like a horror movie set piece. Hunnock is running through infiltration plans in his head when Sanga casually starts floating, just hovering off the deck like gravity is optional. Hunnock stares at her completely dumbfounded. She realizes this is the first time she's found something he can't do, and her entire face lights up with the biggest grin. She mocks him mercilessly for not being able to fly, and for the first time in this entire story, Sanga is actually having fun. The solution is humiliating but practical. She carries him across the water, skating over the ocean surface with Hunnock on her back complaining about the splashing. She tells him she's still working on her water running form. He spots a silhouette on one of the ships and tells her to head for the nearest vessel. She thinks it might be a survivor, but he tells her to look closer. That thing is definitely not human. Skeletal corrosion entities are patrolling the decks. They split up. Sanga takes the closest ship, while Hunnock goes after the ones further back where the real threats are hiding. She lands hard on the deck and immediately draws attention. Hunnock clears his ships effortlessly and realizes these are the lowest tier of Grade 2 enemies. Manageable. He checks on Sanga and immediately has to yell at her. She's using maximum power against bottom tier enemies. Full electrical output against creatures she could kill with a fraction of the effort. He tells her she's burning through mana like someone who lights the entire house on fire to cook a single egg. She dials it back. He tells her it's still too much. She keeps adjusting, keeps fighting, keeps learning in real time. This girl swore she'd never be weak again, and she's willing to push through every correction to make sure that promise sticks. After clearing the ship, Sanga reluctantly thanks him for the advice. Hunnock tells her she doesn't need to thank him because most people never learn even when you hand them the answers on a silver platter. She admits this is the first time anyone has ever actually taught her anything. At the academy, she learned so fast that the teachers just stopped trying to keep up. They never bothered with fundamentals because she was already past the curriculum. Hunnock teases her, asking if she really thinks she could surpass him someday with this kind of training. Tears start forming in her eyes as she tells him she's never been able to surpass a single teacher in her life. Hunnock wasn't expecting that. He just tells her casually that she doesn't have to worry about that here. He's gonna make sure she spends the rest of her life looking up to him. With the ships clear, they head for the island. The hostages are reportedly being held at a shrine, and there are 2 options: Gajin Shrine and Atazumi Shrine. Gajin is closer at about 2 hours on foot. Getting there is easy. Getting 15 hostages back alive is the nightmare. If any of them are wounded, the group will be slow and every monster on the island is going to be chasing them through that sinister mana fog. They need wheels. Hunok spots an old van and asks Sanga if she's a good driver. She gives a confident yes. Cut to Hunok screaming inside the van as Sanga drives like she's auditioning for a Fast and Furious sequel directed by a psychopath. She's swerving through monster packs at maximum speed, while Hunok grips whatever he can reach and asks if she knows what a brake pedal is. She leans out the window with a wild grin and tells him he's welcome to drive if he doesn't like it. He decides shutting up is the safer option. He climbs onto the roof with his spear and starts clearing the monsters chasing them. He's hurling his weapon on a rope, smashing anything that gets close, then yanking it back for another throw. He admits this is actually pretty fun. Then a pack of monsters leaps from the trees on the left and he warns Sanga. She doesn't flinch. She cranks the wheel and drifts the entire van sideways, using it as a battering ram to send the creatures flying. She's laughing like a maniac, telling the monsters to enjoy life as roadkill. Hunok stares at the steering wheel, wondering what kind of monster he created. They hit the shrine, and Sanga plows up the stone steps with a horde right behind them. Hunok tells her to get inside while he handles the tail. He unleashes the paradox flame, but not on the monsters directly. He burns the friction off the stone stairs. Every creature trying to climb up suddenly can't get any traction. They're sliding back down like the world's most lethal water park, while the purple flames make the entire staircase impassable. Inside the shrine, they find survivors tied to pillars, pale and terrified. Sanga approaches and introduces herself, but instead of relief, the hostages start screaming at her to run. She doesn't understand until she feels the presence behind her. A massive samurai corrosion creature towers over her, blade raised and crackling with energy. It swings down and Hunok intercepts it with his spear at the last second. He tells Sanga to load the survivors into the van while he deals with this thing. The samurai is enormous and its strikes shake the entire building, but Hunok holds his ground. Then Sanga does the most Sanga thing possible. She hits the samurai with the van, just drives it straight into the monster and knocks it flat. Hunok gives her a nod of respect before telling her she's permanently banned from the driver's seat on the way back. She tells him to just get in. They load the hostages and start speeding toward the harbor with Hunok on the roof. But the road ahead is packed with undead monsters blocking the path, and the samurai is still alive behind them. Hunok asks Sanga to hand over her sword. She looks at him like he just insulted her entire bloodline because asking a swordsman for their blade is one of the highest disrespects you can give. He asks her what matters more, her pride or the 15 people crammed in the back of this van. She tosses the katana. Hunok catches it midair and activates the mana glove he got from the reward chest on Jiadongo Island. This thing gathers ambient mana and stores it. Maximum capacity is 5 minutes of charge, and during those 5 minutes he hits power levels comparable to Lee Seun herself. Blue light flares across his wrist as he channels everything into a single devastating sequence. He unleashes a flurry of energy blades that carve through the entire horde in one complex sweep. The road is clear. The mana dissipates. He sheaths the sword and tells Sanga to floor it to the harbor. They're speeding down the coastal road thinking the worst is behind them when another massive swarm erupts from the shadows. The van is falling apart and Sanga says they need to bail. Hunok tells her to keep driving. Then something strange happens. They cross an invisible line and every monster behind them slams into a wall that isn't there. They can't push through. The creatures are screeching and clawing at empty air while the van rolls away untouched. Sanga looks back and spots a glowing symbol on a nearby building. She remembers. Before the mission started, Hunok carved that sigil into the wall. He told her it was a protective formation geometry, a technique that repels monsters. When she asked where he learned it, he told her she wouldn't understand even if he explained, because he learned it in another world entirely. She asks if the barrier can stop any monster. Hunok says no, it only works on the low-level grunts, not the real threats. And right on cue, the samurai walks through the barrier like it doesn't exist. Its eye starts glowing red, and the atmosphere turns ice cold. Sanga is shaking. She recognizes it as the Mind's Eye, a legendary combat technique that lets the user predict an opponent's every move. She tells Hunok that even master-level fighters struggle to achieve it. The fact that a reanimated corpse has this skill is terrifying. Hunok tells her to calm down and watch closely because he's about to show her how this works. He explains that the Mind's Eye isn't some mystical enlightenment, it's a trained response to hostile intent. The technique reads hostility and fear to predict movement. So if you approach with absolutely zero killing intent, the technique can't read you at all. The samurai starts swinging wildly at nothing because it can sense something approaching but can't predict a single movement. Hunok walks straight up to it, radiating nothing but calm indifference, and cuts the creature down in a single strike. The samurai shatters. Hunok tells Sanga that all those grand technique names like Mind's Eye, Heart Sword, State of Selflessness, they're all just labels. And the real danger of those labels is that people hear a cool name and decide that's the ceiling. They stop pushing because they think they've reached the peak. On a real battlefield, names don't mean a thing. He says this with the weight of someone who had to sacrifice everything to claw his way out of that exact trap. Sanga goes quiet after watching that. Not the impressed kind of quiet. The kind where someone is staring at their own reflection in a broken mirror and hating what they see. She's replaying the entire Tsushima mission in her head and realizing she barely contributed anything meaningful. Every critical moment, every real fight, every clutch save, it was all him. She was just there. And for a girl who swore she'd never be weak again, that realization hits like a truck. She turns to Hyunuk and asks him to teach her, for real this time. Not tips during combat, not corrections while she's fighting for her life. She wants direct guidance, full commitment. Hyunuk is confused because he thought that's what he was already doing, but Sanga tells him there's a difference between getting advice in the middle of chaos and actually being trained. She knows how weak she is compared to him and she's running out of time. He asks her why she's in such a rush and she drops a bomb that reframes everything about her character. She wants to destroy Club Shidai with her own hands. Club Shidai is one of the Great Eight, the 8 most catastrophic corrosion rifts on the planet. This particular one is famous for swallowing the entire Himalayan mountain range in a single breath. The Himalayas, gone, just like that. Hyunuk realizes this girl isn't chasing a goal, she's chasing a war. He asks if it's revenge, and she confirms it without hesitation. Whatever Club Shidai took from her family, she intends to burn it all down personally. But she's not asking for charity. She pulls out a card and slides it across. Hyunuk looks at it. Key Group. Market cap 25.7 trillion won. This is her family's corporation. Han Sanga isn't just some academy graduate with a scar and a bad attitude. She's the granddaughter of one of the richest men in the country. Hyunuk is stunned. She explains that her grandfather runs the conglomerate and she already dropped out of the succession war. She has no interest in the family business. She just wants power. She offers him rare elixirs in exchange for his training. Not the mass-produced stuff. She's talking about restricted distribution channels, the kind of elixirs money alone can't buy. She figures Hyunuk wants to get stronger too, and these will accelerate his growth. Hyunuk almost laughs internally because if she knew the truth, she wouldn't believe it. The level she thinks he's chasing? He hit that ages ago in the other world. The only reason he's trying to get stronger now is to restore Earth to the way it was before the rifts destroyed everything. But he's not about to explain interdimensional travel to a girl who can't even take a joke. He shakes her hand and tells her she's got a deal. But first they need to get the hostages to a medical center. At the hospital, the doctor tells them there are 7 survivors, all suffering from extreme malnutrition. It'll be at least a week before any of them can even hold a conversation. Hyunuk agrees to wait and then immediately drags Sanga outside because training starts now. He stands across from her with his spear and asks if she thinks she can dodge a full power swing. She nervously says no because the skill gap is too massive. Hyunuk tells her she's wrong. She absolutely can dodge it if she pushes her senses to their absolute limit. He breaks it down. See with your eyes, listen with your ears, smell the air around you, feel the shift in the atmosphere on your skin, master all of those and fight in the realm of pure consciousness, not autopilot. Before she can even process the lesson, he vanishes. She panics, looking around, trying to figure out where he went. He's already behind her with his spear at her neck. He tells her she got it completely wrong because she was too slow. Senses first, thought second. In real combat, there is no time to think. You accept what your body is telling you and you move. Anything else gets you killed. He tells her theory time is over. Practical training starts now. A guard station nearby hears a massive boom from their direction and rushes over to see what's happening. He stops dead in his tracks when he sees the training ground looking like a meteor hit it. These two are going at each other so hard the concrete is crumbling and the earth is splitting open. Hyunuk is not going easy on her. He's throwing strikes that would obliterate most hunters, because that's the only way she's going to learn fast enough to survive what's coming. He leaps into the air and launches a descending strike so devastating that even Sanga realizes she has no chance of dodging it. Just as it's about to land, one of the security guards screams Hyunuk's name and tells him a survivor just woke up. Hyunuk stops the attack mid-swing and calls it a day. He tells Sanga she's improved a bit. She can block now. She stares at him in absolute horror because everything she just endured was apparently session 1. They head to the medical facility and find the survivor sitting up in bed, still dazed but coherent. Hyunuk asks him what happened, and the man starts telling a strange story. A truck pulled up to the place where they were being held. People got out, but they weren't hostages. They were way too calm and the monsters didn't attack them. In fact, the creatures were actually helping these people. They selected certain hostages and loaded them onto the truck like they were shopping for groceries. The rest were left behind. Hyunuk's expression darkens. He's been wondering why they only found 7 hostages when the report said there should have been more. Now he knows. Those missing people weren't killed. They were handpicked. He asks about the survivor who originally escaped and reported the kidnapping. The man shakes his head. That wasn't an escape. They were let go on purpose. Sanga's blood runs cold when she hears that. Hunuk spells it out. How exactly would a normal civilian escape from a corrosion zone that gave 2 trained hunters a near-death experience? The answer is, they wouldn't. The whole thing was staged. The escape, the distress signal, the rescue mission. It was all bait designed to lure someone in. Sanga asks if the entire mission was a trap. Hunuk's voice goes ice cold. He's furious. Not just because they were outsmarted, but because these people use innocent human lives as fishing hooks. The survivor mentions one more detail. One of the people from the truck had a cat mascot clipped to their waist. Sanga does a quick search on her phone and matches the mascot to a local airport's official branding. When Hunuk asks how she figured it out so fast, she reminds him that his phone isn't just for decoration. He fires back that commoners like him get slammed with internet charges the second they open a browser. She cannot believe this man is still living in the early 2000s mentally. They head to the airport terminal and the place is completely empty, not a soul in sight. Then, Hunuk spots a figure sitting on a ledge above them, a blue-haired martial artist covered in piercings. Hunuk takes one look at this man's face and mentally wonders if the guy ran it through a sewing machine. But underneath the jokes, he can feel the crushing pressure radiating from this person. This is not some random thug. The pierced fighter drops down and introduces himself as Kim Jae-hyun. He welcomes them like he's hosting a party and casually tells them he'll be taking them alive. Before anyone can respond, he grabs a half-dead hostage and hurls the man straight into the corrosion rift behind him. Sanga watches in horror as the victim gets swallowed by darkness. Seconds later, the man crawls back out, but he's not human anymore. He's been transformed into a mindless monster, a hollow shell twitching with corrupted energy. Jae-hyun looks at the result and scoffs. Too weak. He kicks the failed experiment into the distance like garbage. This man just murdered someone in front of them and treated it like a quality control check. The truth finally clicks. These people aren't holding hostages for ransom. They're using human beings as raw materials, shoving them into rifts to see if they transform into something useful. Jae-hyun confirms it. Regular people aren't producing good enough results, which is why they need someone special. Someone like Hunuk. He introduces his group, the heirs of Dangun. Their mission is to maintain and strengthen Korea's dominance in this new world order. He stomps the ground and the entire area erupts. Cars launch into the air from the shockwave. He kicks one of those airborne vehicles directly at Hunuk and Sanga. She steps up and cleaves the car clean in half before it touches them. Hunuk engages Jae-hyun directly and reminds him that Korea is already a superpower. Jae-hyun disagrees violently. He screams that it's not enough. He wants absolute dominance, a nation so powerful that nobody would ever dare look down on them again. He starts ranting about historical humiliations, years of paying tribute and bowing their heads. He wants to return every single drop of shame that was ever forced on them. While delivering this speech, he's fighting at full speed. Hunuk figures out this man is a Taekwondo black belt with serious speed. A devastating kick catches Hunuk in the chest and sends him flying. But after eating that hit, he realizes something. Jae-hyun is fast, but his raw power is manageable. Hunuk actually understands where the guy is coming from. If all corrosion rifts disappeared tomorrow, Korea's current position as the world's last sanctuary would evaporate. Their power comes from being the only nation that survived the apocalypse intact. These terrorists have no intention of saving the world because a saved world means a weaker Korea. Then Jae-hyun drops a bombshell. They've found a way to control the rifts. Hunuk's eyes widen because if that's true, it changes everything. No more gambling with lives, no more sending hunters to die. He actually calls for a timeout and tells Jae-hyun he's willing to cooperate. He asks how much control they actually have and says if the answer is good enough, he'll hand over Sanga as a gesture of good faith. Sanga nearly snaps her own neck, turning to stare at him. Jae-hyun says they've achieved just enough control. Hunuk cuts him off immediately. Just enough means incomplete, which means they're bluffing. He calls the entire organization a gang of thugs who talk big but can't back it up with results. That was the wrong button to press. Jae-hyun loses his mind and launches a kick that shatters the concrete where Hunuk was standing a millisecond ago. Hunuk realizes he pushed the provocation too far, but it was intentional. He was stalling for time. His mana glove is nearly empty and he needs it to recharge. The best play now is to drag this into a war of attrition, but Sanga has other plans. She notices the glove's battery is almost dead and intercepts Jae-hyun before he can reach Hunuk. The pierced fighter mocks her, asking if the scared girl in the back finally found some courage. Lightning erupts around her body and she asks Hunuk exactly how much time he needs. 5 minutes. She uncorks a bottle of high-grade elixir and drinks the whole thing. Her body starts glowing with an overwhelming surge of mana. Hunuk panics because she just overloaded herself with way too many purified elixirs. She tells him to stop worrying because emergencies call for emergency measures, and right now qualifies. She tells him to make the next 5 minutes count. Then she charges. The fight between Sanga and Jae-hyun is brutal and one-sided in the worst possible direction. She throws everything at him. Lightning strikes, sword slashes, raw electrical fury. She manages to land a vertical slash on his afterimage and pauses to see if it connected. It didn't. He's already behind her. A kick so powerful it cracks the sound barrier, sends her flying through the air with blood spraying from her mouth. But before she hits the ground, a hand catches her. Hunuk is fully charged. He lowers Sanga gently and looks at Jihyun with the coldest expression we've seen from him yet. He asks if he's ready to die. Jihyun is confused and alarmed because Hunok's mana just skyrocketed out of nowhere. Hunok explains it like he's disappointed the man didn't figure it out sooner. Those piercings all over his face aren't just for fashion. Jihyun has been spamming power beyond what his body can contain, which means he's been leaking mana into the air this entire fight like a busted faucet. All Hunok had to do was sit back and drink it in. While Jihyun was busy being careless with his energy output, Hunok was absorbing every drop of wasted mana to fully restore his paradox flame. Jihyun refuses to believe it because according to everything he knows, absorbing someone else's leaked mana is impossible. Hunok doesn't bother arguing. He just appears behind him and tells him he doesn't need to understand it because he's about to die anyway. The 16-hit combo lands like a freight train made of black fire. Slash after slash after slash, each one trailing paradox flame that burns away the man's ability to fight. Jihyun can't breathe, can't move his muscles. Hunok burned away his muscle strength entirely. The man is somehow still trying to stand through sheer willpower, which Hunok actually respects, but it's over. With his last conscious breath, Jihyun screams for his captain to save him. A projectile comes screaming out of the sky. Hunok senses it at the last possible second and blocks with his spear. Standing on a rooftop above them is a hooded figure with a mask covering his face, holding a traditional Korean bow crackling with mana. This is the captain, and Hunok immediately feels the difference. This man isn't just stronger than Jihyun. He's not even in the same universe. Hunok's first instinct says twice as strong as soon. Then he takes a closer look and corrects himself. 4 times stronger. The captain asks if Hunok fears death. Hunok stays calm and points out that if the captain wanted him dead, that arrow would have hit his head instead of his wrist. The fact that he's holding back means he wants something, and that something is the paradox flame. Hunok flares his black fire and the flames still burning on Jihyun intensify, making the fallen fighter scream in agony. The captain orders Hunok to extinguish the flames and says he won't repeat himself. Hunok realizes the captain has been pumping his own mana into Jihyun just to keep him alive this entire time. He also knows that if that arrow had been aimed a few inches differently, he wouldn't be standing here having this conversation. He releases the flames. The captain moves so fast, he's basically teleporting, snatching Jihyun's body before it even hits the ground. He tells Hunok coldly that he just ruined this man's life. Jihyun will spend the rest of his days in a wheelchair. Then the captain draws his bow again. He says he'd prefer to take Hunok alive, but he doesn't need him in one piece. Hunok tells him to go ahead and try because there's no universe where he becomes anyone's puppet. The captain decides to pull back for now. He still needs to understand those black flames before making his move. Before vanishing, he leaves Hunok with a promise. One day he'll be under his control too. Then he's gone. Hunok lets out a frustrated breath. He just picked a fight with someone he cannot currently beat, and that person now has a personal interest in capturing him. Sanga limps over and asks if those terrorists are specifically hunting his unique skill. He confirms it, but says he has no idea why. She asks why the captain didn't just take her hostage for leverage, and Hunok says they probably know about her family's background. A conglomerate heiress is a political headache they don't need. But the darker implication is worse. If terrorists know that much about Sanga, they might be receiving support from within the Korean government itself. He tells her to keep this quiet. She reminds him she's a terrible liar. He tells her they'll deal with it later. Right now there's a grade 2 rift that needs to die and he's going in alone. He tells Sanga to rest and recover while he's gone. Then he dives into the rift. Inside he finds a massive undead castle sitting in the center of the corrosion zone, radiating energy so dangerous it makes his skin crawl. The core is behind those doors. He pushes them open and finds a massive cauldron bubbling with green toxic liquid in the center of the room. Definitely not the treasure room he was hoping for. A hand grabs his ankle from behind. A man, half melted, legs completely gone, is desperately crawling away from the cauldron begging Hunok to save him. Before Hunok can react, a tentacle shoots from the pot and drags the man back in. Seconds later, the victim crawls back out, but he's not human anymore. He's been cooked into an undead creature. This cauldron is a monster factory. It takes living people and converts them into undead soldiers. Hunok gags from the stench and the horror of what he's witnessing. A memory from the other world flashes through his mind. A burning village, screams for mercy, the same question echoing across 2 different realities. Why? A chilling voice fills the room. The speaker acknowledges Hunok as a different kind of sacrifice. The figure emerges from the shadows. The core of this rift is a swordsman, a massive undead warrior in full traditional armor who draws his katana and tells Hanok he's going to temper his blade with his blood. The pressure rolling off this creature is suffocating. Hanok immediately realizes something terrifying. If the hooded captain was able to defeat and enslave this monster, then the captain is even more dangerous than he thought. There's an entire food chain above him that he hasn't even begun to climb. The swordsman charges and nearly takes Hunok's head off. He barely dodges. This thing is fast, unbelievably fast. Hanok decides to go all out immediately before the enemy can read his weaknesses. He throws his strongest attack at the core, and the swordsman blocks his maximum output with nothing but his blade. Hanok didn't even see the block happen. Before he can process it, the creature has already sliced him multiple times. Blood sprays across the room. The swordsman compliments him for protecting his vital points, and then decides to test him with something more serious. Heavy slashing combos tear through Hunok's body and drop him to his knees. Every muscle is shredded. He's on the edge of blacking out. But here's the problem. The Paradox Flame can't be used as an attack against this enemy because the swordsman isn't truly alive. Abstract concepts need a living target to burn, so instead Hunok uses the flame internally, burning away his fatigue to jumpstart his healing and rapidly regenerate his torn muscles. He gets back on his feet. The swordsman is surprised he can still stand. Hunok manages to slip behind the creature thinking he finally has an opening. He strikes, and the swordsman vanishes. It reappears behind Hunok and tells him he's too slow. Blood erupts from a fresh wound, but the creature doesn't finish him off. Hunok demands to know if it's toying with him out of pity. The swordsman admits it could have killed him, but reveals something unexpected. It can't remember its own name. Most of its memories from life are gone. The gaps in its technique caused by memory loss turned out to be fatal weaknesses in its original defeat. After being beaten by a mysterious man, shackles were placed around its neck to control it. Hanok realizes this creature is in the exact opposite situation from him. Hanok kept all his memories and experience but lost his body. The swordsman kept its body but lost almost everything that made it who it was. Even the reason it first picked up a sword is gone. All that remains is pure resentment soaked in sorrow. The swordsman transforms. Its body warps into a massive shadow beast covered in glowing eyes as it leans fully into that resentment. The power spikes, but the technique plummets. It's stronger now, but sloppier. Hanok calculates that if he can survive one strike, he has a path to victory. He unleashes his full power. Black flames envelop his body, sealing every wound and refilling his mana. He places his hand on the ground and tells the swordsman he's going to burn away all the durability in the area. The conceptual flames don't just target the enemy, they eat through the structure of the temple itself. The floor crumbles like paper, walls lose their integrity. The swordsman is suddenly fighting on terrain that can't support its own weight while Hanok uses the collapsing environment to his advantage. They take the fight outside and it's absolute devastation. Buildings collapse. The landscape gets carved apart. Hanok's spear gets cut in half, but he keeps fighting. The swordsman unleashes a slash that splits the clouds above them but misses. Hanok blasts through a boulder at blinding speed and hits the swordsman with a barrage of attacks that sends the creature flying. The swordsman demands to know who Hanok truly is. Hanok doesn't answer. He just keeps coming. They trade blows that shred both their bodies. Hanok's cuts go deeper. The swordsman's regeneration slows under the relentless assault of conceptual fire. A memory surfaces. Back in the other world, someone once asked Hanok what he would do if he met an enemy whose strength perfectly matched his own. His answer was simple. One of them wouldn't walk away. In the present, Hanok delivers a final devastating strike that tears through the swordsman completely. It takes everything he has, every drop of mana, every ounce of willpower, every lesson learned across 2 worlds in 20 years of war. When the dust settles, Hanok is standing. Barely, but standing. He smirks through the blood and exhaustion. As expected, he's the strongest. The swordsman dissolves and a reward chest appears. Inside is a spearhead that seems too short to be useful until Hanok channels mana into it and the blade extends into a full-length polearm that stretches endlessly, a mana-responsive weapon. Serious upgrade. He also notices the swordsman's katana didn't vanish with the body. He picks it up knowing exactly who to give it to. He drags himself back to the surface and finds Sanga passed out asleep. He drops the katana next to her with a thud, and she jolts awake, confused by the weapon that appeared out of nowhere. He tells her he found it lying around, and she should put it to good use. She draws the blade and immediately recognizes the quality. When she asks where he actually got it, he tells her not to worry about it. He just wants to know if she rested up while he was gone. Before she can answer, his body finally gives out and he face plants straight into the floor. Unconscious, the man who just solo cleared a grade 2 corrosion rift collapses like a puppet with its strings cut. Sangha can only stare. Even the strongest person she's ever met is still human. Word spreads like wildfire. A rookie hunter just soloed a grade 2 rift. The gap between grade 3 and grade 2 is astronomical. Experienced hunters struggle with grade 2 in full teams, and this guy did it alone on what's basically his second real mission. His face is plastered across every screen in the country. He's the #1 trending topic. The most viral hunter in Korea. He wakes up in a hospital bed and immediately realizes he can't even go outside because there's a mob of fans and reporters camped out waiting for him. A woman in glasses enters the room and introduces herself as Jazu Jang from the Secretariat of Embargo Tower. She's been covering his hospital bills. Hunok thanks her but cuts through the pleasantries immediately. He knows expensive hospital coverage doesn't come free. He asks what they want. She smiles and offers him a slice of strawberry cake before getting into it. She shows him a prototype for a mana-powered shield generator, a device that creates barriers to defend against corrosion creatures. If this thing gets mass-produced, it could protect areas that hunters can't reach. It could change the fate of humanity. The organization wants Hunok to help transport this prototype. The plan is to move it by train from Vladivostok across Russia all the way to the Netherlands, and then by helicopter to the UK for a test run. He asks why they're going all the way to Britain, and Jazu Jang breaks down the geopolitical horror show. One of the Great Eight, a massive rift called Ristorante, is parked in Naples, Italy. Its influence has spread across all of Europe and into North Africa. Governments have collapsed. Hunter companies have seized control of entire regions and operate like warlords. The UK is the last stable territory left because the sea gives it just enough protection. They'll also be transporting relief supplies for international aid organizations, which means the train is going to be the biggest target on the continent. Every warlord, every bandit, every power-hungry faction is going to come for them. Hunok agrees to the mission but has one condition. Han Sanga comes with them as his partner. He tells Jazu Jang she's the only person he trusts after everything they survived on Tsushima. The deal is accepted. Later, Hunok heads to the roof where a helicopter is waiting. The association president personally set this up. Soloing a grade 2 rift apparently changes how people treat you. The president assures him the association will fully support his activities going forward. Hunok appreciates the backing, but privately wonders if this old man knows about the heirs of Dangun and whether he wants the world's current state to continue or actually end. He steps into the helicopter and finds Lee Seun already sitting inside, looking sharp as always. She tells him his reputation has spread so far, it would be easier to find someone who doesn't know his name than someone who does. He asks where they're heading, and she reveals they're going to a military base. The South Korean military is officially participating in the Embargo Tower mission. Hunok immediately understands the politics. If this shield generator works, countries won't need to rely on independent hunters for national defense anymore. That's a massive power shift. He asks Son if she's heard of a group called the Heirs of Dangun. She identifies them instantly as a radical nationalist terrorist group composed entirely of Koreans. They've been popping up everywhere, interfering with rift-clearing missions whenever they get the chance. Hunok shares what happened on Tsushima, and just like clockwork soon shoves another candy into his mouth. This woman has replaced normal human communication with confectionery. She asks if he's ever left the country before. He tells her this will be his first time. She leans back with a look that says he has absolutely no idea what he's about to walk into. As the helicopter cuts through the sunset toward the military base, the weight of what's coming settles over everything. A train loaded with humanity's last hope, crossing a continent ruled by monsters and warlords, guarded by a man who killed a demon king in another life, and a woman who ranks 10th in the entire world. Whatever's waiting for them in Europe, it's going to make everything so far look like a warm-up. The sun drops below the industrial skyline of Vladivostok, Russia, and the scale of what Hunok just signed up for finally hits him in the face. The conference room inside the military base is packed wall-to-wall with military brass, elite hunters, and enough tension to power a small city. Hunok flips through the mission documents knowing this escort job is about to become the most watched event on the planet. Son stands off to the side looking unbothered while a superintendent named Hanyo takes center stage to walk everyone through the logistical horror show they're about to endure. The plan is insane. An 80-car armored train stretching over a kilometer long, loaded with supplies, relief aid, and the shield generator prototype. They're going to ride the Trans-Siberian Railway from Vladivostok across Russia, through some of the most monster-infested corrosion zones on Earth, all the way to the Netherlands, and then airlift the generator to the UK for testing. Hunok notices that Son has an entire private car reserved just for herself, because when you're ranked 10th in the world, the train basically builds you a penthouse suite on rails. The military superintendent suggests sharing guard rotations to keep the defense teams fresh during the 2-week journey. That idea gets shot down immediately. Only designated guild members are allowed anywhere near the cargo. The military officials are visibly frustrated at being kept at arm's length by the hunters, but Sun closes her eyes, and that's the universal signal that the discussion is over. Nobody argues with a woman who ends conversations by simply not looking at you anymore. A map of the route goes up on the screen and the room goes quiet. The path cuts through some of the worst territory imaginable. 5 European warlords are already flagged as hostile threats along the route. These aren't just bandits with sticks. These are regional tyrants who seize power after governments collapsed, running their territories like medieval kingdoms with hunter-level firepower. The soldiers in the room are doing the math in their heads, and most of them are arriving at the same conclusion. 2 weeks of constant attacks from warlords, corrosion creatures, and whoever else wants a piece of that generator. This mission might actually be impossible. Sun watches the room start to spiral into a quiet panic. She lets it simmer for a moment and then calmly promises that the train will reach its destination no matter who stands in their way. The way she says it isn't motivational, it's factual, like she's telling them the sky is blue. That somehow makes it scarier. Operation D-Day kicks off as the massive train prepares to leave the frozen station. The platform is chaos. Crews are scrambling to board, guards are doing last-minute gear checks, and the bitter Russian cold is already trying to kill everyone before the monsters even get a chance. Hunuk walks along the tracks and realizes this train is even bigger than he imagined. It disappears into the snowy mist like a metal serpent that never ends. A familiar voice stops him. Sangha is already geared up and ready to go. She teases him about getting a first-class ticket while she's been crammed in with the regular folk back in second class. Hunuk deflects by pointing out that Sun has an entire private carriage to herself, so compared to the rank 10 hunter, he's basically riding economy too. Jiazu Zhang shows up at the platform to see them off, and she's impressed that Hunuk arrived early. He takes a closer look at the train's construction and gives Embargo Tower credit. These cars are built like tanks. Jiazu Zhang explains that the entire train is clad in depleted uranium armor designed to withstand the absolute worst the wasteland can throw at it. Hunuk appreciates the engineering, but he knows the real defense isn't the armor plating. It's the woman with the greatsword and the unlimited candy supply sitting in car number 1. Everything is locked in. The team is assembled, the armor is thick, the cargo is secure. It feels like nothing could possibly go wrong. And then less than 10 minutes into the journey, a swarm of flying eyeball monsters descends on the train like a biblical plague. A hunter with blood streaming down his face screams for backup at car 57. Hunuk doesn't wait for permission. He leaps onto the roof of the moving train into a blizzard filled with monsters and starts swinging. The attack came way sooner than anyone planned for, and the entire defense is thrown into immediate chaos. He's hacking through creatures left and right, but the swarm seems endless. Every time he clears a section, another wave dives in from the storm. And here's the frustrating part. Their strongest fighter, Lee Sun, isn't up here helping. She can't be. The railway ahead is completely destroyed, so the train can only move as fast as the mana-awakened repair crews can fix the tracks in front of it. Those workers are sitting ducks for corrosion creatures, which means a top-tier hunter like Sun has to babysit them instead of being on the front lines clearing the sky. Hunuk is up on a frozen train roof fighting an infinite swarm in a blizzard, while the one person who could end this in seconds is stuck playing bodyguard for a construction crew. Another winged creature dies at his head and he barely swats it away. He stares into the endless white storm filled with glowing eyes and realizes this is going to be a very, very long 2 weeks. Meanwhile, hundreds of kilometers away in Khabarovsk, Russia, the snow is painted red. A massive shark-like monster is being dragged across the frozen tundra like a dog toy by a man who looks like someone fused a grizzly bear with a suit of medieval armor. This mountain of muscle and bad intentions is staring at the ruins of a dead city with the cold indifference of someone who's seen worse and caused most of it. A figure in traditional Korean robes approaches through the blizzard. It's Hyeon, one of the heirs of Dangun. The warlord doesn't appreciate uninvited guests and greets him with a strike so powerful it craters the snow. Hyeon doesn't even flinch. He just smiles and says it's been a while. This man is Nikolai Baranov, the ruler of Khabarovsk, a warlord who controls this entire frozen wasteland and treats corrosion creatures like livestock. He's annoyed because Hyeon's arrival woke up the monster he was planning to eat for dinner. Yes, eat. This man hunts grade-level creatures for food. Hyeon gets straight to business. He has a job for Nikolai. The warlord scoffs and says he already has everything he needs. He's not interested in money. Hyeon knows that. He didn't come with cash. He came with bait. He mentions a special train that just departed from Vladivostok and is scheduled to pass through Nikolai's territory. The warlord laughs because the tracks have been destroyed for years. Nobody can run a train through here. Hyeon explains that the train is moving in real time with mana-awakened crews repairing the rails as it goes. That gets Nikolai's attention. He asks what could possibly be valuable enough to justify that level of insanity. Hyan tells him the cargo isn't what should interest him, it's who's guarding it. The name drops and Nikolai's eyes light up like a kid on Christmas morning. The Candy Lady of Janabai, Lee Seon, ranked 10 in the world. The warlord's face splits into the most bloodthirsty grin imaginable. He suggests just blowing up the whole train and being done with it. Hyan shuts that down fast. He has very specific plans for the cargo that don't involve turning it into scrap metal. He hands Nikolai a small electronic terminal and explains the mission. Break into the main car, plug this device into the shield generator, download the data. After that, Nikolai is free to do whatever he wants with everything and everyone left on that train. Nikolai lets out a roar of laughter that echoes across the frozen wasteland and officially accepts the contract. He couldn't care less about data or technology or the grand plans of Korean terrorists. He just wants the fight. He wants to turn the Siberian Railway into a slaughterhouse, and he wants to do it while the legendary Lee Seon watches. As far as he's concerned, every car on that train is just a coffin that hasn't been closed yet. So now you've got a kilometer-long armored train carrying humanity's last hope, crawling through monster-infested Russia with a repair crew that can barely stay alive, defended by a rookie who killed a demon king in another world and a rank 10 hunter who communicates exclusively through candy. And barreling toward them through the frozen wasteland is a Russian warlord the size of a refrigerator who eats monsters for dinner and just accepted a contract to rip this entire operation apart with his bare hands. If you want to see how this absolute train wreck of a mission plays out, Hunika's standing on top of that frozen train right now, covered in monster blood, staring into the blizzard, and he's got a message for you. He says, if you're not subscribed yet, you better smash that like button and hit subscribe.